Welcome to today's Family Caregiving webinar. My name is Carrie McClellan. I'm the Outreach Manager for ElderHelp, and I am joined with Jean Alton from Alzheimer San Diego, and I will introduce her in just a moment. But we're glad that you were able to join today's topic. It is going to be a really good one for you. So before we get started with that, I did mention that if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to type them into the question pane. We will answer all of your questions at the end, but don't wait until the end if you have a question. You're welcome to submit those throughout. So just to give you a brief overview of ElderHelp, our organization is a local nonprofit organization that helps seniors to remain independent and continue living with dignity in their own home. So that's really our goal. And in doing that, we communicate with many family members who are caring for those seniors and helping in that process, and others who are looking for additional resources and support. We are celebrating our 50th anniversary of supporting seniors and families in San Diego. And our core services through ElderHelp include information and referral that's really available to anybody who's looking for resources. So if you're not sure where to start, you're always welcome to give us a call and we can point you in the right direction. We do offer other services, including check-in calls, pantry services through our nutrition program. We offer transportation and care coordination and volunteer services, and also a roommate matching service through home share. And then our family caregiver support program is the most relevant for today's topic. So we recognize there's so many family caregivers in our community and beyond. And so our information and referral service is again available to anybody who might be looking for resources. We also offer webinars like these that cover a variety of topics, and they are all recorded. So if you are interested in seeing what other topics we've covered in the past, you're welcome to visit our website at elderhelpofsandiego.org. And on our family caregiver page, you would see a webinar library, and you can check out the different topics there. We've also created online courses that are helpful for individuals who might be starting out their caregiving journey or might be in the middle and looking for additional support. So we have helpful assessment tools and information about self-care, information on how to care for a loved one living with dementia, and if you're working, how you can navigate that process. So I encourage you to check those out, also found on our family caregiver page of our website. We are very grateful for our partnership with Alzheimer San Diego, and we also partner with Southern Caregiver Resource Center. So we're trying to reach more family caregivers in our community and make sure that people have the support through our collective organizations. So without further ado, I will have the pleasure of introducing our speaker for today on this important topic of coping with personality and behavior changes. So Jean Alton has worked in the field of Alzheimer's disease and related dementias for over 30 years. She has a bachelor's degree in psychology and in recreation therapy and is a certified positive approach to care dementia trainer. Jean's expertise is built upon her many years of experience working in a variety of settings, including memory care and facilities, adult social day programs, early memory loss programs, and care management. Jean is a senior dementia educator with Alzheimer's San Diego, where she provides community education and coordinates programs for people with early stage dementia. So Jean, welcome today, and we look forward to hearing more about this important topic, and I know you're going to share a lot of insightful information and helpful tools for people who might be experiencing these changes with their loved one.
Thank you, Carrie, and good morning, everybody. We're always happy to partner with ElderHelp, and it's a great organization, and I hope all of you folks take good advantage of the programs at ElderHelp. And as we go along, then I'll tell you a little bit more about Alzheimer's San Diego too. So here we are, coping with personality and behavior changes. And I'm just going to add that on my personal side over here, I'm also coping with a little bit of, we have workers in the house today, so there's a little bit of noise that you may hear intermittently. And additionally, you may have already seen I've got a couple of assistants today, furry assistants, and they were wandering around in the background, and that may continue. So this is life. Things are always happening. So let's just delve right into it. Carrie, please. So this is just a slide just to acknowledge some of the organizations that partnered with us to develop this curriculum. And they are all listed here. So, and we'll just keep going on to the next. So our agenda for today will talk about why personalities and behaviors change in people living with dementia. We'll talk about what are some of the things we can do to address these changes and how can we handle our reactions and hopefully strive towards handling our reactions in a better and more constructive and productive way. So next. So this is, I think, a good quote from 1996 and still applicable today. If we spent as much time trying to understand behavior as we spend trying to manage or control it, we might discover that what lies behind it is a genuine attempt to communicate. And that's absolutely very true. And absolutely very true for people living with dementia. We, as care partners and family members and people involved with them, are the ones who need to try and figure out what that behavior is telling us. So we have to keep that kind of in mind at all times. So we're going to go on, and this is the first step in all of this, is to take a deep breath, because the behavior changes and the personality changes can be very challenging, very frustrating, very annoying, can make us angry and upset, can promote all of these reactions in us in response to what we are seeing happening in front of us and the words that are being directed to us. So the first step is always to just take a deep breath. In the next slide, we're going to start with a short video that is quite good, that just gives us a good general overview of dementia. And we'll be focusing on dementia and the behavior changes and the personality changes that often accompany dementia today. So we're not going to be focusing on specifically Alzheimer's disease or any other particular or specific type of dementia, but just kind of that global version of the many symptoms that we see in people with dementia, and particularly those that apply to behavior and personality changes. So Carrie's going to go ahead and play this video for us. And I also just want to tell you, for any folks who may be watching this as a recorded webinar, at which time it is posted on ElderHelp's website, you can access this video at www.agingresearch.org/video/quick look at Alzheimer's 1/. So again, that's www.agingresearch.org/video/quick look at Alzheimer's 1/. Thanks. Carrie, can we have the video? Earlier remarks. This particular video is addressing what is Alzheimer's disease and gives a good overall explanation of Alzheimer's disease. For our purposes for this class today, we're talking about dementia, meaning all sorts of different types of dementia, including Alzheimer's disease. Now, not all dementias present exactly the same way Alzheimer's disease does, but most dementias do result in that global deterioration of the brain that was described in the video. And so that's the part that we're going to kind of hang on to in terms of looking at what behaviors and personality changes are occurring and what's going on in the brain. Just understanding that deterioration and damage is global, affecting all those areas that were discussed in the video. So all of this is to say that with all of that that's going on in the brain, the damage and the cell death and the disruption in communication between brain cells, between neurons, means that a person with Alzheimer's or some other types of dementia may experience any of these things that we see listed on this slide. Now, usually what I will say is they're not going to experience all of these things at the same time. So thank goodness for that. But any one or more of these situations can be things that a person with dementia is experiencing. Getting lost is very common amongst many dementias. And in fact, probably 60% or more of people with dementia wander and get lost at some point in time. So that's a big one. They may become combative, physically combative, starting with maybe some aggression and agitation, behavior-wise, translating ultimately to combativeness through hitting. They may have sleep problems, and again, this is a very common one amongst dementias, where people are, the day and night cycle gets mixed up, and they are up in the middle of the night. They may not be recognizing it's night out, even though you look out the window and you see it's dark. That doesn't necessarily register that it is nighttime. They may be getting dressed and thinking that they have to get going to work or to school or to pick up the kids or whatever it might be. They may be refusing to take their medication. Also something that's not terribly uncommon. And sometimes that is born out of the thought process that, the medication, somebody's trying to harm me with the medication, that the medication is poison or it's, in some way going to be detrimental to me, so therefore I won't take it. They may not trust others, and this is in a similar thought process where people are saying, I have suspicions about people and what their intentions are, so that they might be trying to do me harm in some way, or steal from me, or, take over my home and get me placed into a nursing home. So having those kind of thoughts of paranoia and being very suspicious of others. They may be confused, and this is again a very common type of symptom that we see in people with dementia, being confused, having trouble understanding kind of the context of their situation, what's going on, what is expected of them, how do they need to respond, not knowing their surroundings or who's here, who are these people that are around me, even if they're family members and people that the person with dementia, should know well, we would think. And another common one is repeating questions over and over and over again. And that happens probably in most dementias at some point in time. And the repetition can become very tiresome and annoying to care partners. And again, this is the thing we have to remind ourselves, this is because of the damage going on in the brain, in that hippocampus area. That is where memory is formed and stored. And so if that part of the brain isn't working, a person doesn't have the ability to form new memories. And that's why they're repeating things over and over. Where are we going today? What are we doing? Why didn't you tell me about the doctor's appointment? Well, I did, Mom. I told you 3 times already, yesterday and this morning again. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Because they're not able to capture that information. Person with dementia may see or hear things. Audio or visual hallucinations can happen in some people where they're seeing or hearing things that are not real. And, the thing about this type of behavior that we may see is that the hallucinations can sometimes be disturbing to the individual, in which case we need to have a response of some kind. I have seen in some cases where the hallucinations have not been disturbing, where they've been rather pleasant, in fact. And in that case, you know, that if the person's going to have hallucinations, that's what you wish for. If it's something that's disturbing, then we need to figure out how to respond. Okay, next slide, please, Carrie. So what we want all of you to take away today, to embrace, is what we call the idea approach. And it's 3 steps. Step 1 is identifying the behavior. Number 2 is exploring it. Number 3 is adjusting. All right, next. So all behavior has meaning. So the questions we're asking ourselves is, what is the person trying to say? What is the meaning of the behavior to the person? And some possible meanings might be, are they sad, angry, fearful? Are they uncomfortable or in pain? Are they sick? Are they feeling sick, feeling nauseous, feeling not good? Are they frustrated or bored? And think in yourself when you're experiencing some of these different situations and or emotions, how you are behaving. When you're feeling sick, how are you? How do you behave? Are you a little not really present with others? Do you kind of hold yourself like, oh, my stomach doesn't feel good? Do you tend to put your head in your hands? You know, what are the things you do when you're not feeling good? Are you somebody who retreats into yourself when you're feeling sick? Or do you become snappish? Some people do when they're not feeling good. They get kind of have some angry responses to people that would, you know, are not warranted because they're not feeling good. Think about if you're frustrated or bored, what are you doing? Are you tapping your hands or your fingers? Are you yawning? Are you, again, maybe getting annoyed and irritable because you're antsy and you've got energy you need to get rid of and there's nothing going on, you're just feeling like there's nothing to do. So think about yourself and translate that over to the person living with dementia. Okay, next slide. I think it's coming. Next slide, Carrie. Yep. Behaviors. This is part 2 of the important stuff to remember. The behaviors are generally not being done to annoy us. They're not being done because people aren't listening, and they're not being done on purpose. And that's important stuff that we need to remind ourselves of on a regular, ongoing basis. Because we do tend, as human beings, we're all just regular human beings, imperfect in all our glory. When things are happening that our behaviors and responses are annoying us, we tend to snap back. And, you know, Mom, you've asked me that question 5 times already today. I've given you the answer. Like, come on. We tend to get a little agitated and snappish ourselves in responding. And so we have to remind ourselves that while that might be a normal way of communication for us with a person who doesn't have dementia, we have to abandon those types of responses when we're caregiving for and interacting with and working with a person with dementia. So next slide. So one caveat to all of this is if we see sudden changes in behavior, where there's a big change in memory or mood, and by change, we're probably referring to decline, where we're seeing more confusion or an increase in anger, hitting or yelling, If a person has suddenly become incontinent, they're wetting the bed, or they're not getting to the bathroom on time. If somebody is experiencing a fever, or if they've had a seizure, it's important to get on the phone to the doctor immediately, because sudden changes in behavior can often be an indicator of something that's going on medically. For the most part, changes in behavior and personality that are a part of the dementia process happen gradually, slowly over time. A sudden change where mom goes from Monday she was doing fine, and today she is angry, she's upset, she's incontinent, and she's hitting out at me when I'm trying to help her with personal care. That's a sudden change in behavior. We want to get on the phone to the doctor to see what's going on, because it may be an infection, something going on. It might be a urinary tract infection that she has. And there can be other circumstances that can arise as well too that cause that sudden change in behavior. Next slide, Carrie. Next. So again, the idea is the three-step approach. We're going to start to break it down a little bit. So under number 1, identifying the behavior, we want to be specific. Under number 2, exploring the behavior. We're trying to understand the meaning, and we're trying to understand the cause. Number 3, in adjusting, we want to try and brainstorm so we can come up with better approaches and better responses. Next slide. So, step 1, identifying the behavior. Can you describe the behavior? So let's go back to the example. Mom was fine on Monday. It's Thursday. We're seeing a big change. Well, what is the big change? Well, she's normally pretty easygoing. Now she's angry, irritated, irritable. She's striking out at me a little bit physically, becoming combative with me when I'm trying to provide personal care for her, help on the toilet or in the shower, those kind of things. So, and she's become incontinent. I mean, on Monday she wasn't, but now today she peed the bed last night, and you know, she was incontinent and peed her pants this morning. So that's the describing the behavior. Do others see it the same way? In this instance, let's say yes, that, you know, my husband who helps me caregive for my mom, he's seeing the same thing that I am. Does the behavior bother your family member? Well, something's bothering mom because she's a different person from who she was on Monday, and she's just not normally like this. So yeah, I think the behavior is bothering her. Something is bothering her, and it's bothering me because I feel like something's going on that I don't know about. Okay, next slide. So then we explore, why is it occurring? What has been the root cause of this change in mom's behavior? What is the meaning to the person? Well, I'm going to say when she's agitated and upset and angry, that maybe she's in pain or she's uncomfortable in some way. When she's getting combative with me when I'm providing personal care, I'm wondering, is there something with her stomach or with her bowel or her bladder, because she gets irritated when I'm trying to help her clean herself after the bathroom. She doesn't want me touching any of those private areas. So what is she trying to say with that? Well, I think she's communicating to me that there's some pain and discomfort somehow in her, inside of her or in her genital areas. So next one. Step 3. Okay, so this is just not a normal situation. I need to adjust. I need to be the one to change. So in this instance, what I'm going to do is get on the phone to the doctor. And in fact, in this example I'm giving you, it would be quite likely that mom has a urinary tract infection. But it could be other things. It could be constipation, it could be a stomach bug, it could be all sorts of different things. And if it's been something that didn't happen over the last few days, but rather has been something that has happened over the last few weeks, that mom has become incontinent, become more agitated and upset, then I need to think about things in a different manner, and I need to adjust in a different manner, because maybe it's not so much a reflection of pain and discomfort, or let me backtrack that, maybe so much not a reflection of pain, but discomfort with needing to use the bathroom, having the urge and the need to urinate, but the brain is having problems recognizing those signals, that's what needs to happen. Mom is uncomfortable because her bladder is full. She doesn't remember where the bathroom is or what the bathroom is used for because of the dementia. And therefore, until such time as her bladder releases, she's getting angry and agitated and upset. But even then, after her bladder releases, now she's wet and she's uncomfortable with that. And, you know, that can start to make a person feel cold, being wet with urine. So again, there's reasons for her to remain kind of upset and agitated. So in this instance, I've given you, in this example of a longer term change in behavior and personality, how do I change? Well, maybe I need to start taking mom to the bathroom every, let's say, 3 hours, not asking her, do you need to go to the bathroom or do you need to pee? But rather just taking her by the hand, leading her to the bathroom, pointing to the toilet, maybe helping her get seated on the toilet, and just saying, it's time for you to pee. It's time to use the bathroom. And in this way, a toileting routine is going to help her to release the bladder, to not be walking around with a full bladder and, unable to process those signals from the brain. So that is when we are influencing the behavior and adjusting the environment by establishing routines, by being directive about it, not open-ended questions, by getting her to sit on the toilet, even if she says, no, I don't have to go, just sit for a minute. We're in the bathroom here anyway, so just sit, take a break, and maybe you do actually will go to the bathroom. So that is where we are changing our approach to things. So next one, please, Carrie. So we're going to watch a video, and as we watch it, I want you to just think about what you see happening, what may be causing the behavior, what does the behavior mean to the person living with dementia, and how do you think you might have responded if it was you in the shoes of the caregiver? Okay, let's go to the video, Carrie. Okay, and again, for people watching the pre-recorded recorded version at a later time, gosh, this is a long URL, so I'm going to shorten it a little bit for you. If you go to www.uclahealth.org, and then just put in the search window, just search for the dementia caregiver education, and it'll take you to a list of videos that UCLA, videos and other resources that UCLA Health has compiled for people who are caregiving for somebody with dementia. And you'll be able to find this video and others. So again, go to www.uclahealth.org, and in search, just look for dementia caregiver education. Okay, let's go to the video, please, Carrie. we've paused the video for a moment because I want to go back to the original questions. So and feel free to put any comments or answers in chat if you wish. And, I'm kind of going to answer the questions as we go along. So what did we see happening in this video? Well, the daughter is the caregiver for mom, and, it seems like it would have been a harried morning for her. Goodness only knows what all's going on. But there's a doctor's appointment and for mom, and the daughter just wants to get mom going so they can get to this doctor's appointment, right? So, but what's happening? Well, mom is being resistant. Daughter's trying to get her in a more appropriate form of dress for the weather, and then for them to get going. It seems like they're running late already. So, and, mom's just puts the brakes on. She says, no way. Leave me alone, and I don't need your help. And, kind of pushes daughter away physically. And daughter's response is, well, let's back it up. What does the behavior mean to the person living with dementia? What does all this mean to mom? And think about that for a minute, all of us. And, what I might suggest is mom is asserting her autonomy here. She's saying, don't come in and start issuing orders to me. I'm a grown woman, and don't start kind of manhandling me or woman handling me, trying to get me to take this shirt off and put something else on, and just kind of taking over physically as well as with your direction. And I think, mom is also just saying, I'm going to go at my own pace. Like, don't just come in here and, attempt to take over and just be in this rush with your own agenda. I'm not gonna follow along with that. So in the end, I think ultimately what mom is doing is just establishing her autonomy. Now, daughter, how did she respond when mom did that? Well, she got exasperated for sure, right? And she ended up kind of throwing her hands up, her arms up, and kind of stomped off. And she said, why do you always do this to me? So, daughter's morning has just kind of blown up, and looks like they're not going to make it to the doctor's appointment. And what that means, maybe daughter has to do a bunch of rescheduling. Maybe she already did. Maybe she had to clear her morning or take the morning off from work in order to make this happen. And she's really feeling the impact of mom's resistance. So, and then let's think about how, if we were in the daughter's shoes, how could we go through the idea approach, identify the behavior, explore the meaning and the cause of it, and then adjust in terms of our approach and response. So how could this whole scenario go differently with changes on our part? So let's watch the second part, in which these people who are actors will redo this scene with a different response and approach by the daughter, and we'll be able to see, the differences here. So let's go with that. Carrie, play the video. Okay, so we saw the start of the video again, which is good just for a refresher and kind of all the things that went, I guess we'll say went wrong. And then in the second version, we saw a different approach to things. And so again, let's just kind of identify what was different the second time around. Well, to start with, the daughter came in not with guns blazing, right? She came in, she said hi to her mom. She said, how are you doing today? And then she did go into you know, we've got this appointment here today, and you know that we need to get you dressed. And Mom again kind of asserted herself and said, no, I can do it myself. And I just want to point out at this part, when the gentleman talks afterwards, so we're talking about, you know, defending and establishing autonomy. We all have that within us. And in fact, I think it stays with us for a long time in spite of disease processes like dementia. And an important point the gentleman makes afterwards is that many people with dementia don't have insight or awareness of their diagnosis and how this is impacting them. These are the folks that say, leave me alone. There's nothing wrong with me. I can do it myself. And, you know, to try and say to them, well, no, you've been diagnosed with, let's say, Alzheimer's disease. These might be the people that say, what are you talking about? I'm not diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. I don't know where you got that from. Well, Mom, that's what the doctor told you. No, the doctor didn't say that. You just don't know what you're talking about. And I've never seen a doctor about those kind of issues. So these people just simply do not have awareness or insight into their own disease process and how that's impacting them in terms of kind of limitations and their need for care and oversight in areas. So if we're in that mindset that everything is okay with us, then of course we're going to push away people who are trying to help us, and particularly with things like help us get dressed, right? There's no need for it. We know what we're doing. We're going to take care of our own self. So Mom asserted her autonomy, and daughter's response this time was she just kind of slowed down almost to a stop. And she said, okay, I think she says something like, let's try this or do this differently or try this again. But what she definitely does say, she says, I'm sorry. She apologizes to her mom. And she says, I love you. I love you very much. And, you know you can do it on your own and that you're perfectly capable of doing that. And I just want to help you as much as I can. Can we do this together? So, and then she asks basically permission from Mom. Can we do this together? And Mom gives her that permission with a nod of her head. And again, yes, this is done by actors, but I'll tell you, I've worked directly in memory care facilities and with families and diagnosed individuals over the years. And I have to say that this video, I think, is a pretty accurate portrayal of these types of situations that can occur. And I think it would be entirely possible if this were real life that the first part very well could have happened, but I think the second part could have happened as well too. So a more positive outcome for everybody involved in this second one. I think there were a couple of other things that daughter did that really helped out as well too. She, as the gentleman said, she simplified things and she reduced choices. She said, how about this? I think this looks good. In terms of the shirt that she was suggesting Mom wear. But another thing she could have done is just taken 2 of the shirts out of the closet and said, would you like to wear this or this? Now, in terms of simplifying, the closet selections were less, right? And they took out the heavier sweaters and the things that wouldn't be appropriate summertime clothing to wear. If it's not there, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. If it's not there, then it's not a part of the choice process. And, another thing I think that actually I think is a good way of approaching things. Daughter concludes with that, yes, we are going to go, we have a doctor's appointment. We're going to go see the doctors. And then she says, and then afterwards, we're going to go for ice cream. I think, well, I'll just say straight up, I'll pretty much go anywhere and do a lot of different things if someone takes me for ice cream afterwards. But it's about a little bit of redirection and a little bit of putting a positive spin on this outing. Is we're going to do something that, maybe it's not, neither of us are super excited about. We're going to the doctors, but then we're going to go for ice cream. And most of us as human beings, we respond to those kind of positive incentives, and they work. And why not make them work? Use them to the benefit of both yourself as a care partner and to your person living with dementia. So the whole goal here is to make this, again, just a more positive and productive situation and outcome for everybody involved without upset and anger and agitation. And we saw that clearly in the first video, that both of these people at the conclusion of this scenario were upset and angry with one another. And a different approach, a different adjustment to the behavior that mom is expressing to daughter, the adjustment on the daughter's part results in this more positive outcome. And I think there's one other thing daughter does that you just very briefly see in the video. That is what we did at the start, is she takes a moment, she takes a deep breath. And then that's when I think she says something like, let's do this again, or try this again. So take that deep breath. That's part of it, for us to just take a moment and reset and then try again. So let's go on, Carrie, to the next slide. So we've done these things. We identified the behavior that mom showed. We were specific about it. We explored what the meaning of the behavior was, and I think we understood the cause. And we can be very empathetic to that and respectful of that, the need to establish one's autonomy. And then we definitely identified the daughter adjusting, and we did a bit of brainstorming on our own as well too, in terms of approaches to a better and more productive scenario. So next slide. This is just for all of you to think about and put this idea method to work for yourself. And, to literally get pen and paper out and go through these steps, identifying, exploring, and adjusting. And I would encourage you to maybe do this with other family members as well, too, because, more minds, more heads together, I think, is almost always better. And others may think of ideas for adjusting, or may think of different options, possibilities in terms of exploring what's causing the behavior, what is the meaning behind it. It's good for us to check in with others and see what they're thinking, because sometimes we can learn a lot from each other. And so I encourage you to do that. So do your brainstorming with other people who are also involved in the care of the person with dementia, who have some good knowledge of the person and insight into, how they behave and what are some of the things that you see happening in the person with dementia. And the next slide, Carrie. Think about your safety net. This is, we go back to take a deep breath. Everybody needs to have a safety net, and especially our families and individuals who are caregiving for somebody with dementia. I said this at a class earlier this week, and I'll say it again. I have been doing this work for over 30 years. And in all those years, folks, I have never yet met one individual who was successful in this journey of caring for somebody with dementia, who was successful with it by doing it alone. Can't be done. You have to have a safety net. You have to have a support network. So I think it's always good on a regular basis to re-examine your safety net. Think about who would you call for assistance in an emergency. And I'm not talking about a 911 emergency, but something else that has gone on. Who do you call? Who do you rely upon? Are you getting regular breaks? Are you getting respite? Time away from the responsibilities of being a caregiver. And I mean true break, where you know and trust that whoever is in charge of your person with dementia is with them and providing oversight and supervision, knows the drill and is going to do a great job, that you can really truly relax and let your mind be free of that role for a short period of time, or maybe a longer period of time. Have you talked with others, family, friends, neighbors about the situation? Should you maybe talk to them? Can you build your network further by having those conversations? What additional support do you need? Next slide. Yes, when you are overwhelmed, and if you'll click again, yep, take a deep breath, folks. Take a deep breath. And then the last slide. The other things that you can do is you can call ElderHelp, and you can call Alzheimer San Diego. We are organizations that are here to support you folks. We have a variety of programs and services for you to take advantage of. And at Alzheimer San Diego, all of our programs and services are free, no cost to the community. We have social activities and outings for people with dementia and their care partners. Education and training, like this webinar here today with ElderHelp. We support local research. We provide memory screenings to people looking to establish what their own baseline is, and to be monitoring for changes in memory and cognition. Vitals is a program where we have trained volunteers keeping in touch with folks who are living alone in the community with dementia. Support groups, both in person and virtual, throughout the county for the in-person ones, and many specialty groups, men's caregiver group, support group, adult children, long distance caregivers, a couple of support groups that are different languages. Spanish is one, but there is another, and I want to say I think it's Korean, but I'm not, don't quote me on that. We do have specialized support groups. We have a respite program, All's Companions, trained volunteers, either virtually via Zoom or in person, to spend time with the person with dementia. In person, they would go in the home up to 4 hours a week so that the primary care partner can take a break. And then we have our dementia experts, our clinical services team, answering the phones 8:30 to 5, Monday through Friday. And we are there for you. Call us if you have questions. If you have a behavior, a personality change that you're just at wit's end, you just don't know what to do with this, call us. Let's talk through the situation and we'll do some problem solving together. If you're looking for information, call us. We've got lists and lists and more lists. You don't need to go out and kind of Google things and then try to winnow that list down into something that's manageable. We've got that information. We've got those lists. And even if you're not looking for anything in particular, if you just need to talk, call us. We have big shoulders and good listening ears, and you can call us every day of the week. There's no limitations on this. So the point being is we are ElderHelp and Alzheimer's San Diego and other organizations in town are here for you folks. So lean on us. That's what we want you to do. Avail yourself of our programs and supports. That's it for today. So we've got a little bit of time if there's questions. So Carrie, I'll open that to you.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Jean. And I think that the information that you shared and those examples were really helpful. I know there's so many people who are dealing with different situations that come up, and you know, you're definitely not alone. And as Jean shared, you know, there are resources available. So please reach out. Nobody can do it on their own successfully. So please reach out and make sure that you have some additional support as part of your team. I did have a couple of questions that came in through the presentation, so I'll start with those, but if anybody has any others, please go ahead and type them in to the question pane and we'll be happy to go through those as well. So the one that came through was, and it was around the time where we showed the video, the second video. So the question is how to respond when your loved one is continuously talking and has questions over and over again without making her tell me that I'm not listening. That's what this person was saying. So it sounds like the person they're caring for is telling her that she's not listening and is continuing asking the same questions over and over.
So, you know, repetition is a hard one because again, we have to go back to remind ourselves that this is the disease process that's causing the repetition. And because they can't capture information to make it into memory. And, you know, when I say repetition, you know, sometimes it's just 3 or 4 or 5 times, but sometimes it's 30 or 40 or 50 times. And look, that, you know, I don't proclaim to be any kind of saint, and I don't expect anybody else to be either. We all get, you know, ourselves agitated and annoyed, and it would be pretty hard not to after you've been, you know, told the same thing 40 times over. So, and the same kind of, I guess, rules for better outcome apply. So we need to adjust ourselves because they can't adjust themselves. And so that means rather than tuning them out, which may elicit the response of you're not listening to me, or rather than responding by saying, yeah, you've already told me that, Mom. And then again, maybe getting the response, no, I didn't, you're not listening to me. You know, again, we have to kind of put our heads where they are at. So what does that mean? It means some days patient listening to the same stuff over and over and over and over again, and doing our best to at least appear engaged by making eye contact and giving good facial cues. Yeah, okay. Now, we've all got, those of us without dementia have the capacity and capability to do those things while really not being engaged with people, because we've all done it, like in family situations and work situations, right? So maybe that's what we have to do. And the other important part of all this is redirection. So when the story is completed, or whatever it is that's being communicated is completed, to say, you know, validate in some way, gosh, that was just, you know, I didn't realize that that had happened. That was really interesting. I'm glad that you shared that with me. Look, it's almost lunchtime and I need some help figuring out what to eat. Come with me and let's have a look in the fridge. So redirecting then. So try redirecting. It could be redirecting to an activity. Look, I've collected all these coupons from Sunday's paper, and we need to clip them so I can put them in my little coupon thing that I take to the store. So come help me with this. So then redirecting to that activity. Maybe you get them going, cutting coupons, and then you know, kind of get back to whatever things that you need to do. So doing our best to appear, at the very least, appear engaged with repetitious statements or questions. And then a redirecting, I think, is the best that we can do. And, you know, redirecting can also be something, you know, an example might be, in this instance, let's just say, maybe considering an adult day program for the person with dementia, so that they are active and involved and engaged with others and with professionals overseeing all of those activities. And, you know, so that's tiring people, keeping them occupied and tiring them out through the day. I wonder sometimes, I don't know, but with stories that are told over and over, I sometimes wonder if that's maybe not a function of some boredom, that, you know, these are the things that they remember, and so they're going over them and over them and over them again because there's boredom and isolation going on. So a thought.
Thank you.
What was the second question?
So the second one, this person shares that their grandmother currently lives in Los Angeles with limited support, and they are considering moving her to San Diego to be closer. But they have heard that changing the environment of a person with dementia is very detrimental to a person's health. So they're asking, is that true? And is there any suggestions or tips that you may offer as they consider that option?
Well, you have to assess the pros and the cons here. So, you know, if grandma's not doing so well on her own up there, that's likely to continue. And in fact, her health will likely further decline if there's dementia involved. So in that case, having her here in San Diego and closer to family, you know, the long-term outcome is going to be a better one for her, because you're closer together, you have more time together, more and easier ability to, you know, provide oversight, take her to doctor's appointments, and so forth. So I think it's just a matter of assessing kind of the pros and the cons and thinking long term. It may be easier to move grandma now rather than later. And are there some parts of the move that she could participate in? For example, is it, if she's moving in with a family member, can she help to figure out how the placement of things are going to be in the room? What pieces are most important to her to bring with her? Or, you know, if she's going to move into, let's say, an assisted living facility, then, you know, is she able to go for a tour with you and contribute to the decision making? And sometimes people aren't able to do that. Families need to just take hold of things and make decisions. So, but I think in the end, if you say to yourself, is grandma going to be better off here with us in San Diego over the long term than she would be alone in LA? And if the answer is yes, she'd be better off here, then start planning the move. You know, work with the doctor too. You know, and try to minimize the disruption that grandma feels. So moving day might be where you have a team of people in LA and a team of people down here in San Diego, and somebody else takes grandma out for the day for a long drive down here to San Diego that includes a lunch stop, so that stuff in LA gets attended to and things get set up down here in San Diego, and grandma's able to walk into a room right away that at least has some, you know, very familiar and favorite items in it. Let's say a favorite recliner with her favorite chair and her books and her special Afghan that she has. So to make it familiar. So that's what I would suggest there.
Great suggestions. Thank you, Jean. And then we didn't have any other questions that came in, but just a couple of comments that people shared how appreciative they were of receiving this information, and they'll certainly be in touch if they have questions that come up with their own caregiving situations. So they're just
Great.
sharing their appreciation, which
Good,
is
that's great.
wonderful.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll just wrap up by saying, again, folks, call either of our organizations or ideally both of them. You want to utilize as many programs and services as are available and helpful to you. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
We definitely lean on the experts at Alzheimer's San Diego for a lot of different reasons. So if you reach out to us and we feel that Alzheimer's San Diego would be able to better assist you, we'll point you in the right direction. They have a
mhm.
wonderful team, and we've definitely leaned on them quite a bit. So you're in good hands if you reach out. But I will send a follow-up email with the different slides so that you can have a copy of those. And I'll also include the links to the videos. So if you wanted to share those separately with anybody else in your life, you'll be able to do that. But please feel free to reach out if you have any other questions. So thank you all so much for joining today. And again, thank you, Jean, for sharing your expertise on this difficult topic.
No worries. Always happy to be here with you, Carrie, and to work with ElderHelp. So thanks again for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Bye.